Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with leaders that have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. Our featured guest today is Nyssa Hathaway. Now, I just want to say happy birthday. Woo! Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. So Nyssa is a flight nurse in Central Georgia with a background in ER from a level one trauma center. She is the creator and co-host of an emergency nursing podcast called the Q Word Podcast, as in when we are having a manageable shift, we never say it. It sure is quiet. Her nursing passions are precepting new nurses, family presence at the bedside during resuscitation, and professional development, including certification. Her nursing bucket list includes, and this is funny, I just want to let y'all know this. Our nursing bucket list includes running the smoothest code blue you've ever seen and catching a baby. And we talked about this, so we're going to talk about that at the beginning. And she likes hiking, digging in the dirt, road trips, and gourmet cupcakes. So tell them what you said about catching the baby.
So I originally thought when I went to nursing school that I was going to be an L&D nurse all through nursing school, but somehow I got off track and ended up in the basement of the hospital in the ER, and I've never left. And I've gotten very close several times when women had come through triage and weren't going to quite make it to L&D, but I've never caught that baby, and I've always wanted to catch a baby. But I don't want a little preemie baby, a 23-weeker. I want a big, fat, juicy one. None of my paramedic partners on the helicopter want to do that with me. None of my ER nurse friends want to have that experience with me. I just want to do it one time. I want a big, fat, juicy baby. I want to catch it. I want to hold it up in the air like Lion King, for the crowd to cheer, and just have this whole thing played out in my head.
I love it. I love it. I was telling her a story about when we first, it used to be when I was in the emergency department, we would have this, I would put out front the people who wouldn't call me for everything, right? You got to call me for the emergencies, right? And so I would put those out front. And so whenever I got a call and they said it was an emergency, I knew that it was a true emergency, right? And they called me and they said that this lady was getting ready to deliver this baby. Now, unlike Nyssa, Viola is not trying to have any babies in the emergency department. So I was running, and this one guy, he was like, "You never run," and I said, "You're right." And so he started running with me, and we plopped the lady on the stretcher, and we got her upstairs. And so Lisa said, so when we got her upstairs, we pulled over to the stretcher, and when we pulled over to the stretcher, she instantly plopped that baby out. She was like, "Well, that's yours." And I was like, I don't want to own it. I don't want to own it. So I love it. I love it. I love it. So I want to wish my husband a happy birthday as well. You guys are birthday twins. He is amazing. And so thank you, thank you, thank you for showing up on your birthday.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
So now you were a stay-at-home mom at one point in time in your life. Was that always your vision of your life when you had children?
Yeah, so my husband and I decided we wanted to have a house full of little kids and big kids. And our hope was that we would be able to manage it so that I could stay home when they were little. And then when they went to school, then I would go back to work. And so that's how we initially started off.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. I love it that that's a decision between the two of you. Now you decided that you wanted to be a part of the nursing community. What was the motivating factor for this decision?
Yeah. So when I was traditional college age, I went to college and I got a degree in something else. It was actually in art history. So completely opposite from nursing. And then we started our family. And so we had 3 kids at the time. I had dropped my daughter off at kindergarten and was headed to drop my second child, my son, off at preschool. So I had him in the car, and I had the baby, who was about 7 months old, in the car with me as well. And on the way to the preschool, we got T-boned by a big truck, and the baby was sitting right behind me. And he was seriously injured, like life-threateningly injured. He had a skull fracture. He injured some vessels in his head, had some damage to his brain, and so we ended up in the pediatric intensive care unit for about 9 days. And of course, I wasn't in the medical field, and so watching the team that was working with him, the nurses, the physicians, the all the ancillary people like speech and occupational therapy, and um, I was just amazed for so many reasons. I was amazed, one, at the human body and how the human body can heal itself, and then two, at the way the healthcare team pulled together, and the way that they treated him and the way that they treated us. Um, his injury didn't heal like they hoped it would heal, and so about 10 months later, he had to go back to the hospital and have surgery. Had a craniotomy to repair the skull fracture. So we were back in the same place. And in the meantime, between that period of time, he was having CAT scans and MRIs. And because he was a baby, that meant conscious sedation. And it was like a whole day at the hospital every single time. So there was lots of interaction with healthcare people. And I was just really blown away by all of them. And it was through that experience that I was like, I would really like to be a part of this. This is really important stuff that these people are doing. And for a really horrible experience to end up being a really good experience, and something no short of miraculous and kind of beautiful. That is what I wanted to be a part of. It was the happy ending that came out of this really terrible thing that happened to our family.
I love the fact that, one thing about children is that number one, they're resilient. And it's really difficult when you're taking care of a child. And, I used to be the supervisor of the pediatric emergency department. And one of the things that is really difficult is when children are just they come in and you have those emotions. Like, it's not just it's the parents that you are dealing with, and then you have to deal with the children, and it is a big thing. And so I'm I just really like the fact that you saw that the ability to be able to get past those barriers, because there are a lot of barriers that you have to get past. They're small, they have small veins. You're trying to put IVs in them, you're trying to make sure that they're stable, that they keep in line, and then as well comforting the parents and
Mhm.
showing that that knowledge and expertise is something that is wonderful. But I love the fact that you just completely you saw the good out of that, right?
Mhm.
You saw the good out of that, and you changed your whole profession based on that, right? I mean, that is something to be said for sure. Now, what were some of your thoughts following the accident, and how were you able to keep the faith that everything would be okay?
I remember my husband and I took totally different outlooks on it. He always wanted, when the physicians were giving us updates, he always wanted them to give the best case scenario. And I always wanted to hear what's the worst case scenario, because I felt like if I could hear the worst case scenario and wrap my head around it, I could move from there. It was just interesting to hear how we both had, opposite viewpoints. But I remember one update where they said, we're not sure what kind of damage his brain is going to, how it's going to manifest. He might have some vision issues, including blindness. He might have some muscle issues, including spasticity. And I just remember thinking, none of that matters. I don't care if we have to do special ed. I don't care if we have to do physical therapy, occupational therapy all day, every day. As long as he's here with me, I will do whatever it takes. And now, as a healthcare professional, I see these parents who have special needs children who really are living that life. That is not the life I ended up with. We were very, very lucky. And I see the parents who do those things all day, every day with these special needs children. And I think about how naive that girl was back there when she said, "Doesn't matter, I'll do whatever it takes." And I feel for these parents who have the caregiver strain and this intense work that they have to do with their children all of the time, and how willing I was to sign up for that life in that moment, because it didn't matter as long as my child was there with me. And so when I am caring for a child who's had an acute event like that, I can empathize with that family because, I mean, I just had a kid within the last 2 weeks that had an acute event with a head injury, and we were on the scene, and there's just brief moments of interaction with the family because it's a time sensitive thing. We've got to scoop this kid up and go in the helicopter, and I don't have time to tell the mom my whole backstory. Like, I literally know how you feel because I was in this situation that you're in. But I have time to go and grab her up and say, Mom, I have kids. I'm going to take care of your daughter like she's my own. And the mom just, cries on my shoulder, and I give her a big squeeze, and then I take her baby away and put her in a helicopter. So I don't get to, I hope in those few words and in that tight squeeze that I can let her know, like, I literally know how you feel because I was there. Um, so, and I think when we talked before, I have a lot of times when I tell this story, people ask me, like, I don't know how you got through that. And I didn't have a choice. Like, no one asked me, like, would you like to tap out now?
Right.
You don't get a choice. Like, you have to just keep getting up and going. And so it does, I think, help me really be empathetic when I see families who are going through similar situations, what we went through. Um, I've had parents who were driving a car where there was a wreck and their child was injured. I was driving the car in a wreck where my child was injured. I know the guilt that those parents are feeling because I felt it. Even it's not your fault. This is misplaced guilt. I tell them my story, and we bond in a way that maybe other nurses might not be able to. So it's given me a really interesting um, perspective for my patients and their families.
I think that it's really telling to be. I've always said that things don't happen to you, they happen for you, right? And you're being able to be very empathetic in those situations and being able to know, that guilt that that parent may have, right? And just telling them that it's okay. It is misplaced guilt, right? Is huge, right? It is huge. And I can't tell you. I have a friend that had a child that was burned, and we're good friends now. But it was a really really tough situation when you have that child and you're doing everything that you can do. And she said the very same thing that you did. She said, "I didn't have a choice." She said, "I couldn't tap out." She
Mm-hmm.
said, "I had to just keep it moving and
Mm-hmm.
take care of my child in the way in which my child needed to be taken care of." And so, kudos to you, kudos to y'all who don't tap out, who do whatever you got to do in order to take care of your children. And you almost quit nursing prior to becoming nurses. Tell us that story. Now, this is a funny story. So, here we go.
So, so here I am in nursing school, and it is one of our very first clinicals. And this is that clinical where you're only assigned one patient and you're barely hanging on to just get through that one patient. And one of my classmates who had had some experience, maybe she was an LPN or a CNA or something, she knew her way around, she knew what was up. She asked me to come in and help her take care of her patient. And I remember it was a little older fellow, and he had soiled the bed. He'd had a bowel movement, and she just needed me to hold him while she cleaned it up. That's all she was asking me to do. And so I said yes. And so we went to roll him. And when I rolled the gentleman over, the smell hit me full force in the face. This wasn't a GI bleed, it wasn't C. diff, it was just a garden variety poop. And I couldn't handle it. I leaned down to the little gentleman and said, I need you to hold onto this bed rail really tight. And I excused myself and I went into the bathroom of his room and I vomited all of my lunch. And I was horrified. I was mortified. I came back out, and my classmate knew exactly what had happened. The poor patient knew exactly what had happened. I came back out and was holding him, and my classmate was like, "It's fine. You can go." I mean, she's dismissing me. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm here. I'm going to do it. But I was devastated because I thought, I can't do nursing. Like, this is a really big part of nursing is cleaning up patients. And I've embarrassed myself and I've embarrassed my classmate and I embarrassed the poor patient. And so I felt like I had just blown the clinical that day. Like, I just failed at the clinical. And I made an appointment with my advisor, and I sat down with her and I said, I think I might need to change my major. She said, why? And I said, well, I can't clean up poop successfully. Like, I vomited. Like, I can't handle the smell. And she said a really wise thing that I have never forgotten. And she told me, nursing is a team sport, and everyone has their weakness in nursing. And maybe yours is poop, and maybe someone else's is vomit, and maybe someone else's is sputum. And so I'll clean up your poop and you clean up my vomit, and we all work together as a team. Um, and and I see it a lot of times with nursing students where they bomb a test and they think that their nursing career is over, or where they bomb a class. It's not uncommon to fail a nursing class or NCLEX. And then they think it's all this work is for naught. And for me, I kind of bombed a clinical, and I thought, that's it, I have to change my major. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect in nursing. And she, Mrs. Dillard, was right. It's a team sport, and we do fail. We're not going to be perfect at it because we're human. And the only people not making mistakes are the people that are not doing any work. And that's something another mentor of mine told me.
Say that again. Now that is so true.
And so I hope that the nursing students who do have these failures will use them. I have since been an instructor for clinicals, and I have had nursing students that I have put on performance improvement plans because they just weren't quite there. And I have seen them, it was like fertilizer on a plant where they have just, they used it to just grow and bloom and really do very, very well and become great nurses. I've had one who was not successful in a class that semester, and she dug in and she got gritty, and she is a fantastic nurse now. And so, the lesson is, yeah, you're going to fail. I can promise you, you're going to fail at something.
Fail fast.
Maybe
and get over it.
I am happy to report that I can clean up poop with no problem now. They also promised me that would happen. You're going to clean up so much poop that it will not be a problem.
So you're good now.
Good now.
But that is so true, because what happens is we go into the profession and we think that we're not going to fail. And it's hard, right? Because you want to show up perfect for your patient, because we're in a different arena. So I liken it to, ordering, too much of a certain product from another company, right? We order too much of insulin. I mean, that's somebody's life on the line, right? And so it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different skill set. It's very different in nursing. And so we have to be very, very clear on what we're doing, and just understanding that it is going to happen at times. And when it happens, then we just need to course correct really, really fast, so that we can save the patient's life for sure.
That's right.
So now you went straight to a level 1 trauma center. It's your first job. Would you recommend this? And what is some advice you would give someone who is seeking to do this to get into their career?
Yeah, it can be done. It's not easy, but it can definitely be done. The trauma center that I worked at hired new grads all the time, and mostly with success. It's not for everyone, but it can be done successfully. I would say if that is your plan, then find one that has a residency program. Find one that has a very good support program for new grads. That is when it will be successful. A program where they will check in on you frequently. They will assign you a primary preceptor, not bounce you around to different people all of the time. And what we would do is we would only take so many. So I think we would take 6 per semester, so that we could really focus on those 6 and grow them really well.
So now, how big of an ER was it?
So we had 60 beds.
Okay.
And a staff of about 150. So we could take 6 new grads, and we had 2 educators. So each educator would take 6. So it was about 12 new grads.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And I think that I wouldn't my personal experience. And it was just because I was clueless. When I say clueless, clueless, okay, about nursing, because I didn't even want to be a nurse. I wanted to be an engineer. And so when I went into nursing for the first time, I went into nursing and I went to the med surg floor like everybody tells you to do, right?
Right.
But I was a kinesthetic learner. Once I did it, I had it. And
Hmm.
so, and I tell the story about me going down to the emergency department one night, and this girl came in and she was preeclamptic. And well, she was eclamptic by the time we finished with her because she started seizing. And we found out that she was pregnant, and nobody knew she was pregnant. Not her mama, nobody knew she was pregnant.
Hmm.
And I mean, the fast, quick work, and it's just like you said, when you went down to the emergency department because you wanted to be an L&D nurse initially, but once you got down there, you were like, oh my God, like, attracting fleas to a dog. It's like, I love this.
Yes. Yes.
And so you tend to stay there whenever you get there.
Yes.
So now, when you first went into flight nursing, you were yet again a novice. Now, how did this make you feel? And what's some advice you would give someone who wants to become a flight nurse?
Well, so I had been in level one trauma center. I had been a preceptor. I had been a charge nurse. I had been the educator the department educator for 3 or 4 years. So I was kind of like the go-to girl. Like people needed roadblocks taken away, they would call me. People had questions, they would call me. I was the one with the answers. I was the one who knew where everything was. I was the one who knew how to get things done. I was the one who'd seen a bunch of stuff. And so then moving into the flight environment, all of a sudden I was back down to novice again and I knew nothing. I mean, I knew how to start an IV, but like I didn't know how to do it in a shaky tin can in the sky.
Mm,
Um, and it was very shocking to be a novice again. And it was the pits. It was really hard. But then I had to remember that this was what I wanted. I looked to change my environment and change my career and change my situation because I was looking to push my skills. I was looking to have something new, have a challenge. And then when I got it, I was like, well, this sucks. But wait a minute. That's exactly what I wanted. I'm getting what I asked for. So lean into it. Lean into it. So, and what I learned from that is that once you have gone through from novice to competent to expert, and then you get knocked back down to novice again, you move through those steps much, much, much faster than you did
ah.
as a new grad, for instance. Um, but yeah, it's really hard. It's very uncomfortable, but I just kept having to remind myself, you asked for this, you wanted this, you like this. This feels good.
And and one of the things that I always say that if you are comfortable, then typically you're not growing,
Yeah,
right? And so and not that you want to necessarily be in that, want to just be uncomfortable, but you want to always grow. And growth is not comfortable, and we just have to understand that that's just a part of the process, and it is okay. It is
yeah.
okay. You're going to get past that and you're going to grow. And now you're a flight nurse and you're an amazing flight nurse. So I'm loving it. So now you are a national speaker. What is some advice you would give someone who's seeking to speak for the first time?
Oh man, I love this question. Such a good question. If you are interested in becoming a speaker, that tells me that you've probably done some teaching, you've probably done some presentations, maybe like in a staff meeting or at a huddle to people that you know that love you, some friendly faces, and now you're looking to maybe go to speak to some strangers in a bigger audience. So there are three things that I would say. One is first, pick a topic that you are very passionate about, that you love. Probably something that you're knowledgeable about would be a good idea, or something that you're willing to really dig into because you're going to practice and rehearse it until you know it very, very well. So if it's something that you only sort of are kind of into, know that you're going to be in bed with it for a very long time and you're going to really, really get to know it. So it's probably want to pick something that you really like. So the topic is a really key piece because something that you're passionate about and something that you're knowledgeable in. Then the second thing would be, I would say, start with your professional organization. So the way that I started was just at a local chapter meeting of my Emergency Nurses Association. So probably about 20 or 30 nurses. And then I would speak at the state level. So, state education meeting for the Georgia emergency nurses. Once you have a few of those on your resume and shown that you've spoken in those, that would be maybe like 100 nurses or 150. Then the regional conferences and the national conferences will start looking at you more seriously. The other thing that I would say, the third piece of that is the slide presentation that you have, whether you're using a PowerPoint or Google Slides or whatever. One of the mistakes that I see a lot of rookie and even seasoned presenters make is your slide presentation should be, in my opinion, should be almost exclusively pictures, photos, graphics. It should be beautiful images, not words. What happens is when presenters put a ton of words or bullet points on the slides on the screen behind them, you have just written your own competition. So when you pop up a slide that has all kinds of words on it, your audience is going to naturally want to read the words and they're not listening or paying any attention to what you are saying. So you have just lost to your own PowerPoint presentation. So if you put up a beautiful picture of something that goes with what you're about to talk about, they're going to look at the picture, but they're going to listen to what you're saying because the picture means nothing without what the words that you're saying. So your presentation that you create should be images, photos, beautiful graphics that go together with your topic. It's a big mistake to have it just be a script of what you're saying.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I love it. I love it when I talk to people who are smart. I always say that you're the sum total of the five people you hang out with the most. And if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room.
Wrong
Because I
room.
never heard that before. And
Wrong.
that is really, really good. Now, you have a podcast. What is the name of the podcast and what is the primary reason that you started the podcast? It's the Q word.
The Q word, that's right. And we picked that name because it's sort of an inside joke for medical people because
Mhm.
we all know from EMS to physicians, and no matter what department you're in the hospital, we all know that we do not say that word and what
Not.
happens when that word is spoken. So it's sort of our little inside superstitious joke. So it's called the Q word. And I started the podcast because I went to a really, really great conference. It was a EMS flight conference, and it was mostly medics and ER physicians that were at this conference, and presenters that were so good, some of the best presenters I've ever heard. And many of them I found out were podcasters. And so I started listening to their podcasts. Really great content, really great information being presented from a medic standpoint or an ER physician standpoint. And so I said, I really like what I'm listening to, but I want to hear it from the ER nurse's standpoint. So I went to the catalog of podcasts looking for the ER nurses podcast, and I just didn't find it. I just
Wow.
didn't find anything out there. So I went back and was listening to these folks, and after a while, I was like, you know what? I'll just do it myself.
That's right.
And so the podcast was born. It's almost 3 years old. In the meantime, several ER nursing podcasts have come along, which I'm very happy to report. And so it is a growing field. Podcasting is a great way to get out education and information, and network in nursing. So
I think one of the things that I really like about there's a couple of things that I like about what you just said. First, you did not see it happening, and so you did it yourself. Okay, you created it. That's number one. Number two, I like the fact that you say that now you have seen other people do the same thing, and not creating that environment of competition, but that environment of collaboration, that environment of there is enough for us all,
yeah,
right? I mean, there's almost 4 million nurses in the US, right? And many more outside the US. And we just need to come together and be better for the profession. So I love that. So, where can the audience find you?
So the podcast is on all of the podcast platforms. We are on iTunes, we are on Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Um, any of the smaller podcast platforms. We are also on Facebook at the Keyword Podcast. Our website is keywordpodcast.com. And we are on Twitter. And you can also find me personally on all of those places.
I love it. I love it. So thank you for coming here, especially on
having
your
me.
birthday. Happy
Yay,
birthday.
Such a good way to start the morning.
I know. So now we have a 4-day business challenge on June 8th, next week, next Tuesday, 2021. It's free, and we will be teaching you wealthy business mindset strategies to attract your ideal clients, speaking as another stream of income, and the power of social media so that you can create multiple streams of income. You can go to VP, V as in Victor, P as in Paul, nursing.com to sign up for this. And I ask that you like and share this podcast. And again, we are just here. We're intentional about connecting you with leaders such as Nyssa that have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. So you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.